All right, this is OneLastMidnight. Welcome back to another episode of Astroneer, and the Astroneer just came out with the B.O.O update, which stands for Biofuel Obtainment Operation. And look at the spooky aurora in the sky. We're sitting on Aatrox, and that's where the event is happening. So make sure if you want to participate in this spooky event that you fly over to Aatrox. Now, like I said, it's not a huge update. Let's go over some of the changes before we actually get into the event itself. There was a change to the catalog. You could tell that it has more description, more detailed information. It also tells you how much power, if power is applicable. It gives you a nice little design here that shows you, what it's going to look like. And then also, like I said, some detailed information. Again, if it tells you, if it draws power, it'll tell you exactly how much power is needed, which is really helpful. So you can figure out what it's going to take to power your base and what's required of it. The event itself unlocks a couple different items. Yeah, I am in creative mainly because I wanted to be able to fly around and get to things quickly. But you get the endless mask, which is the new mask that's available when completing some part of the event. And then you also get the, hollowed helm, which is this pumpkin helm that you get also as the first part of the event. It's got little teeth on it. I thought that was pretty cool. If you were part of the last Halloween event, you have this little pumpkin face. That was last year's, if you've gotten that. And I think this hat looks perfect with that pumpkin face from last year's event. But otherwise, like I said, you get the new endless visor, which is really cool with the purple. And it's got, the skull face in there, which I thought was pretty neat. As part of the new event, there is a new plant species called a Cauldrangia. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not too sure, but it's kind of like cauldron and hydrangea mixed together. There's also this other new plant, which you can see right here. It's kind of like the whiplash plant. These Cauldrangia plants are highly protected. They're surrounded by all this environmental nastiness, and yeah, be ready. You have to dig all this up to get that plant out because you need that to complete the event. When you finally get the Cauldrangia back to your base, you can create one of 3 biofuel items. Spooky squash sample with squashaline, which requires 2 spooky squash. Now you're going to have to become a farmer. So you're going to have to go find some spooky squash, plant the seeds down, and start exploding these. And what you'll wind up getting is some of this spooky squash sample. My suggestion to you is each one of the spooky squash that explodes gives you 1 to 3 seeds. I highly suggest that you just plant a field of spooky squash and start harvesting as much spooky squash samples as you can get so that you can turn around and quickly produce some of this fuel. But the first fuel, the squashaline, requires 2 spooky squash samples, and it'll process and it'll create your squashaline. The other 2 fuels require different seeds. It needs an Attackus seed and a spooky squash sample. So you're going to have your spooky squash patch, and then you're also going to have your Attackus patch. And you're going to harvest these guys up. Make sure that you plant down plenty of them because you're going to need plenty of seeds to create the biofuel. And you'll get this little biofuel. And then finally, you're going to need an elegant spew flower seed. This is probably one of the harder ones to get because the spew flowers are very sparse on the planet. But once you get a bunch of spew flower seeds, again, plant them down. And make sure that you do a bunch of these and replant the seeds. And then that way you'll have enough to create your farm. But you're going to take the excess seeds that you have and you're going to make the 3rd fuel, which is this Noxthane. Now, once you have the quantity of fuels that's required, which squashaline is going to be first, you're going to place it in the XO request platform and send it off until you get the number and quantity in which it requires you to have. Because I'm in creative, this whole process is disabled right now. But I believe the quantities were pretty large for the squashaline, half for the apatrol, and then even smaller for the noxethane, because I think that is the hardest one to get. But again, what happens is the squashaline will give you the hollowed helm, the atatrol will give you the mask, and the noxaline, when it's complete, will actually give you the final item, which is under the large printer, and that will be the pumpkin shelter. And the pumpkin shelter is very cool looking. It is just a giant skinned pumpkin, which is the new shelter. And it also has a nice little entry door that you wind up entering into and going inside of. It kind of eats you up like the plant does. It's got a couple connection points, and it has a couple power slot connections as well. And that's it. You know, there's not much again for this update. There are a bunch of new store items, which I thought was pretty cool. This bundle is really sweet. I got this right away just because of the colors and the stars and the mask I thought were really nice. And then, of course, there's, I think, some new emotes that were introduced. This peekaboo one, the jump scare one. There's a palette, this patchwork palette, which I thought was pretty cool. I actually like this, almost a scarecrowy kind of palette. Hats, they introduced this new little electro antenna hat, which I thought was really neat. And then also the mask, which I wound up getting, which was the crow mask. I thought the crow mask was pretty cool. And they also have this face cuddler, which is this spider attached to your face, which I don't know if I would ever own that thing. And I think visors, they didn't add any new visors. I think the new visor was just the one that you got inside of the event. Aside from that, there was a bunch of defects that were fixed. Not too many huge ones, but a handful of defects that were resolved in this particular patch. So this patch is really just about this particular event and a few other changes, you know, a few updates. It's really fun to do. With 8 people, it took us about 2.5 hours to complete. So I'm thinking it's probably going to take you a decent amount of time to complete it going solo. But hopefully you guys enjoy it and you get the new items. It will run for a whole month, so you don't have to worry about rushing through it. You can definitely get it done. And if not, there's always a save file for you guys to download in the shared folder that has this exact setup, so you guys can get to work right away. All right, that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. I'd love to have you in the community. If you want to follow me on any of my social media, you can find the links in the description below, and make sure to hit that notification bell. That way you know when I go live and when I post new videos. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.